Hello and welcome to the Work of Thy Hands podcast, where we interview Christian creatives, conversing on the ways they have seen their creative projects as co-creative efforts with Christ, times they have drawn inspiration from the physical creation, and their thoughts surrounding the nature of work as a creative. I'm your host, Allison Ramirez, and today I'm thrilled to be welcoming our next guest to the podcast, Robin Sebolino. Robin is a husband to a wonderful wife and a dad to two amazing little girls. Besides writing novels, he teaches creative writing and literature subjects such as Divine Comedy, Shakespearean plays, creative writing. Currently, he is developing a Catholic literature syllabus for his university's humanities major. He used to write fantasy stories, but when he discovered the Catholic history of his country, the Philippines, he shifted to Catholic historical fiction. He mainly writes about Catholic laypeople and their journey through life while being guided by their Catholic ideals and sensibilities. He loves character-centric or character-driven stories for their meaningfulness, and his current project is called The Crusaders of the Orient Saga. It is a series of historical novels set in the Philippines. He and his wife founded a publishing company, Plaza Books, in 2023. Plaza Books aims to publish works that celebrate traditional Catholic values. They want their works to be family friendly, uplifting, and fun. Welcome, Robin.
Thank you very much, Allison.
I'm happy to have you on the podcast. It sounds like you're doing quite a bit of things, including your writing and your new publishing company, which I'll love to hear more about
Mhm.
that. And your work, it looks like at the, let's see, was it the university? Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe start by just telling our audience how you got into writing or your work at the university and your history with all these creative projects.
Okay. Well, my writing thing is actually quite close to my conversion story. So I just finished college. So I was looking for a job, and I was thinking, okay, should I continue writing? Because I studied literature when I was in
Uh-huh.
university. So I'm
Yeah.
thinking about, yeah, should I continue writing? And because I really did enjoy writing at the time. So I thought, yeah, maybe I should. Now, at the time, I wasn't. Well, I would say I'm a cradle Catholic, but I kind of fell away during my university years. So I'm finishing college, and all right. So, am I going to continue to write or not? Well, if I'm going to continue to write, then I might as well read the most enduring books that are out there. And
Mhm.
there was a Bible in the bedroom of my parents. And yeah, so as I was preparing to move out, I just kept seeing that Bible. It felt like, okay, so if you want to decide on being a writer, why not start reading first and see where that gets you? So I picked that Bible up. I think I started with the book of Matthew, and then the Gospel of Matthew. And then, yeah, I started loving it. I'm loving how stories go, all the insights, all these stories that need to be told that I'd want to reimagine, apply. Yeah, so I guess that gave me the energy and more inspiration to do it. So that's how it really started. So I basically read so many things. I read lots of things. And then from just reading whatever I wanted to, I tended to concentrate on Catholic literature or or any works written by Christian writers. So yeah, that's how it started really.
Well, I like that it sounds like you just one day you just picked up your parents' Bible and you started reading it, and then from there you were really drawn in. Would you say reading the Bible drew you back to the faith as well, or also just drew you back to realizing, yes, like writing is what I'm really passionate about? Maybe both?
It's many different things actually. So when I fell away from the faith, I almost didn't. I mean, see, the thing is, it's kind of weird. Like when I fell away, it's not that I stopped believing. It's just that
Mhm.
I'd reached these conclusions which told me that maybe you shouldn't bother anymore. So the thing is,
Mhm.
in my college years, I thought that the world was basically hopeless. If you see what
Oh,
I mean? I mean, so I still believed everything. So I believed in Jesus Christ becoming human and dying on the cross, resurrecting. I believed all of that. But I thought that maybe somewhere in the history, maybe before the Second World War, maybe during the Second World War, wherever, God just called it quits. Like, goodbye world. I'm not even gonna say formal goodbye. So that's basically how I saw the world then, and how I saw religion. But then I started reading lots of stories in college as well, specifically history. again, it's really strange because most of the history I read were war histories.
Hmm.
And for some reason, whenever I read those war histories, I can't help thinking that a good God was really behind it. See what I mean?
Yeah.
So amidst all those ruins, so I mean, I'm sure you've seen ruins, like, beautiful ruins. I mean, they are ruins, but they are nevertheless beautiful. So I felt like that's what I was seeing actually. I was reading about bloody histories of, people killing one another. And yet I can't stop thinking about that, despite all of this suffering,
Hmm.
there's still a beautiful soul,
Yeah.
maybe in ruins, but nevertheless beautiful. And there must be some divine hand, even a benevolent hand, controlling that. So that's how
Mm.
it started actually. And then, yeah, I started being more open to spiritual things. I would argue I was kind of blessed with this friend who's came from a Protestant background, so he come from a family of pastors who, yeah, had the patience to argue with me to answer my questions.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and then finally we reached that Bible moment when I was discerning
Hmm.
whether I'd continue writing. So yeah.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, like it sounds like, yeah, you didn't really stop your core beliefs, but maybe you had a sense of, yeah, you lost maybe faith in humanity or the goodness
Yeah.
of things. But then you said, yeah, you were studying the war histories and you felt like, yeah, even in broken things, there's still beauty and, there's still a reason to have hope and faith in something more. Yeah, tell me a little bit about your writing. So, Crusaders of the Orient Saga is your current project of historical novels set in the Philippines. So, is that a series of books that you're going to be publishing through your company Plaza Books, or where are you at in the writing publishing process of that series?
It's a tetralogy, so four
Trilogy?
books.
Okay. Oh, 4 books.
So it's four books. So it's basically the stories of Filipinos who converted into the Catholic faith,
Okay.
mainly by or through Spanish missionaries.
Okay.
So what I really wanted to explore was like how did those people from hundreds of years ago, with their own religion, with their own culture, why did they suddenly get convinced, persuaded by these missionaries to change their beliefs, to make huge adjustments in their lives? The common thing they say in our history was that the faith was imposed on them through colonialism. But as I read about history, and I've talked to many historians, they didn't. They freely accepted it. Most of them did.
Mhm.
Um, Maybe some didn't, of course. But yeah, I mean, there's absolutely no evidence. I don't know why our history. I remember our high school history. Yeah, usually blame the colonialism for why we're Catholics today. So yeah, Philippines. I think we're 87% Catholics, 95% Christian. I think. Um, yeah. And then when I went deep into our history, when I talked to serious historians and went beyond the high school typical mainstream history, that's when I started to learn that actually it's much more complex than this. And at least
Mhm.
from the church perspective, I would say even a good one. Like I mean, not to discount the abuses, the scandals, but I think overall the experience of my country with Catholicism is pretty positive.
Mhm.
I would say that. And I think with that, I thought maybe I wanted to explore that, to at least contemplate the world before from hundreds of years ago. How did these people slowly change with this seemingly foreign religion?
Mhm.
Yeah, that's basically it. And I have different characters. So, for example, two books are already out. The first one is called Vassals of the Valley. It's the story of a pirate. So, if you can think of how our country looks, it's lots of islands, and you can imagine how it can be a breeding ground for lots of pirates. So
Mhm.
it's basically a story of a pirate who converted to the faith once Spanish missionaries started arriving, and how that changed him, especially as regards how he understands money and how he understands how human life could be valued. So that's the first one. The second book is called Bells and Incense. So that was during the yeah. So the Dutch wanted to take the Philippines as well. And this was the start of this huge devotion, probably one of the biggest devotions we have, which we pattern after the Holy Rosary devotions in Europe during the Battle of Lepanto, if you're familiar with that. So I think that's when the Ottoman Turks tried to invade Europe, and then
Yes.
Europeans, yeah. So we have that similar thing, but it's basically our navies with Spain against the Dutch. So what's the story about here in Bells and Incense? So it's a story about this person who he he thinks he has a vocation, but one of the tricky things at the time was, so Catholicism was rapidly expanding in the Philippines. And obviously, a lot of Filipinos would probably get inspired. The thing is, they can't be priests yet. Filipinos weren't allowed to be priests until the 20th century, I think. Even though zeal was pretty high,
Mhm.
how did this person who wanted to be a priest, how did he live his life? At least that's what he thinks. Okay, he
Yeah.
has a devotion. He has a one. And I wouldn't say it's not simply for reasons like racism. It's just that they didn't have the facility. I mean, the
Yeah.
Philippines is practically, other side of the world from Spain, from
Mhm.
Christendom at the time. You can't just, transport books that easily. Building a university is going to be a major challenge. If this person wants to be a priest, I think he needs to be shipped to, I mean, first to the New World, to Mexico, and then to Europe. It's like, I think there's only one recorded person, a Jesuit, and he had to be sent to Mexico and then to Spain. I mean, and again, traveling at the time isn't like how it is today. So it's virtually impossible. Maybe the faith, you can introduce the faith to people, but as regards to the difficult training to become a priest, yeah, these things. I wanted to reimagine how these things played out in the lives
Mhm.
of the faithful at the time, and how they might see it as, yeah, what kind of faith did they have, basically? How did they saw Catholicism given their limits by which they can practice it?
Mhm.
So these things.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
historical fiction, so that's so cool. I love how you're combining your culture and, with
Mhm.
Catholicism, and then, yeah, like you said, looking into the past and seeing what might the faith have been like then, I think is a really unique perspective. That reminds me of a few years back, I was reading all about, I think it was the French Canadians. There were missionaries, like Jesuits, I think, coming over to the Native Americans, and it was talking about Saint Kateri Tekakwitha, and it was talking about that whole like encounter with the Native Americans and the missionaries. And yeah, I was very fascinated because yeah, it was there's so many multifaceted like approaches and everything that was happening, and the Native Americans encounter with Christianity and how like their thoughts and impressions with their tribal religions and things like that. So yeah, that's very fascinating. So Plaza Books, then, is that like your publishing name that your books are published under, or do you publish other people's books, or are you looking to grow that larger, or what's your thoughts for what your publishing company will look like?
Yeah, we also publish other people. We don't necessarily only publish Catholics, but we do look at the content. If we think the content is compatible with what we believe in as Catholics,
Mhm.
if it's something that we can, adhere to, then we'll go for it. In fact, we'll have two more books coming out this year, which isn't me and my wife. Yeah, they will be our non us people who's going to be
Wonderful,
publishing
that's
work.
cool. So then do you have a submission process at this point? Like
Yeah.
guidelines for people that are interested in submitting their books?
So currently, that's what we're working on, actually. But hopefully next year we will have a submission process already. At the moment, we're just contacting people who've been writing for many years already and asking them if they have any manuscripts that they'd like to give us. And yeah, thank God, two people said, "Okay, I have a book for you."
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love that because so many people they want to be published through like a company, right? Like as opposed to myself, I've independently published my books. I have my own like name, like my publishing name, but I only publish my own books. But I like how there's other options for people that maybe they can't get a contract with a larger traditional publisher. I've been seeing like your group Plaza Books and others smaller publishing companies that are rising up to be able to take, aspiring authors' books. Okay, so then do you guys also do you manage like all the cover design and the editing and the formatting, or do you have other people that are responsible for that?
Well, yeah. I mean, by us, it's us, me and my wife and her friends mainly. Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, she has a bunch of talented friends. They mainly do the artwork for the books.
Okay.
and the layout. I mean, we do the layout, we do the proofreading and the developmental editing, those sorts of things. Yeah. So that's what we're doing for now.
Mhm. Oh, that's great. Yeah, and then I'm sure the marketing piece is a lot. That's what I'm
Yeah.
struggling with my books because I've
Yeah.
almost I'm working on getting 2 different series totally written.
Hmm.
One's a trilogy of 3 books, and the other one's gonna have 4 books, and I'm like, once
Okay.
I have all 7 of those books out, it's gonna be interesting to try to really market. I've done a little bit of marketing, but I wanna dive in deeper and try to reach more readers, so
So actually, it's quite exciting, I would
yeah.
say. How do we mark? Because I'm connected to a university, so
Yes.
I think, yeah, that helps a lot insofar as getting word out there. And my university, although it's technically a secular university, but the founders are devout Catholics, and they do follow. If you're familiar with Cardinal Newman's
Mhm.
and how you're supposed to run the university,
Yeah.
they do follow that. So they make sure that, yeah, most of the professors are Catholics, or at least respectful of the Catholic religion. So yeah, that helps a lot, actually.
Mhm. Yeah. Wow. So then it sounds like because one of my questions I like to ask people on the podcast is how do you balance your work, your different obligations? Because I'm assuming is your university job like your full time job, and then you do Plaza Books like on the side, or how do you? Yeah, and you're also a dad you mentioned. So how do you balance all of your obligations?
You know what? I mean, I hope I'm not giving an overly simplistic answer. I just do it. I just I just make sure that I follow, because I do like a bullet journal every day,
Okay.
and I just list down the things I need to finish, and I just finish them. I mean, I'm definitely tired,
Uh huh.
and I wish I'd have more time. Yeah, yeah. I mean, prayer helps a lot, I would say.
Mhm.
Yeah, like right now, I keep praying about not turning into a robot. With all the stuff I do, sometimes you feel like you're not human anymore. You're just a machine. So yeah, I mean, I just do the work that I have
Right.
to do, and for some reason, they get finished, and they get finished on time. Yeah,
Like you said, you've got your bullet journal. It sounds like you're good about just checking the boxes and being able to power through and accomplish things. So that's good. Well, let's see. Another fun question. Do you have a particular Bible verse, prayer, song, or person who inspires you as a creative?
I mean, for the Bible verse, I can tell you which verse exactly, but I really like this moment when Saint Peter, when he couldn't catch fish. Do you remember
Mm-hmm.
that? He couldn't catch fish,
Yeah.
and then I think he's been doing it for a day already, and then Jesus tells him, just go all out. All right. I mean,
Uh-huh.
do it one more time, and then make sure you lower the net. So yeah, that helps a lot whenever I think. So for example, if nothing's happening, like, I ask myself, like, have I lowered down the nets? I mean,
Mm-hmm.
how low have I committed them to the sea, really?
Yeah.
And that usually helps. Yeah, it helps with prayer. It helps with how much energy and commitment I put into the work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say it usually works, and we probably should do it more often, actually. So
Yeah.
so that thing, I like the prayer by Thomas More, the prayer for sense of humor. Yeah, I like it because I think in this kind of industry, and also with books, and also with books especially, I think, yeah, sense of humor will really go a long way. Yeah, like, I
You said
need to learn.
Thomas More sense of humor. I don't know
Yeah,
if I don't know. You said that's a prayer.
it's a prayer. You can find it. You can
I'll have
find
to
it
look it up.
online.
Yeah,
Just
I don't
Google
know
it. It's gonna
that
come
one.
up. Prayer for
Okay.
sense of humor. You're
Yeah,
just
I
gonna
like
find
what you
it.
said about the nets because I can see that as a metaphor for a lot of things. Like
Mhm.
maybe you're asking God to help you with something, but you're not totally trusting or surrendering, which would be lowering your nets fully for
Yeah.
him to actually fill you up with what you need. Like for
Mhm.
Peter, he gets all the fish, but yeah, maybe for a creative person, it's motivation or inspiration or grace or
Yeah.
energy and or yeah, connections for marketing, like whatever it may be. Like I think that's true. I think sometimes we ask for things, but we don't necessarily do what we need to our part to like we're trusting in God, but God might be saying, okay, but I need you to work with me as well. Lower your
Yeah.
nets, right? So yeah, that's great. Well, do you have any general advice for people that are Christian creatives? Could be writers or anyone in the creative sphere, like things you wish you knew or like words of wisdom you'd want to impart?
Okay. So yeah, I mean the usual things like I think prayer does help a lot
Hmm.
when we write. Some spiritual activities which I think helps, especially storytellers. Contemplative prayers help a lot. At least if do a lot of contemplative prayer, I think it'll also help us visualize scenes in our stories more effectively.
Hmm.
That works a lot as well. Now the third one, this has something to do with my personal bias. Okay, so a lot of the Catholic literature or any religious literature that I read and didn't like would usually make their characters talk about theology a lot.
Hmm.
It's very, very difficult to pull through, in my opinion. So, yeah, that's my advice there. I think
Yeah.
because it is a story, I would say maybe the focus should be not so much what they say about theology as the actions of the characters. So if you
Hmm.
want to work on, if you want to explore themes on, let's say marriage, I think instead of having your characters talk about the theology of marriage, just focus on their actions as good married couple, I would say.
Hmm.
So yeah, maybe that's an interesting, yeah, maybe that could work as a writing advice. Try to minimize that, especially because even I experience it. I already live in a predominantly Catholic country. People tend to get allergic reactions when they hear the word God or Jesus. In fact, one of the things I do when I would write is sometimes I do the Control F thing to check how many times I've written God
Oh.
or
Hmm.
Jesus on my document. Like, three is too much out of 80,000 words. So I mean, I have to be very careful with that. So yeah, maybe focus more on actions than
Hmm.
uh
Yeah, well, you always hear the phrase actions speak louder than words, right?
yeah.
And I think sometimes I know the temptation with at least writing the theology is maybe you can sound preachy or it can sound like
Hmm.
you're just telling the reader what they should think or believe, which depending on your audience could be off putting. But if
Yeah.
they're actually seeing somebody living out the faith or they're struggling or they're having temptations or things like that, maybe it seems more realistic to readers because they can actually like, oh, I know someone like that, or I've been in that situation. And yeah, maybe it seems like you said more like a story, and it invites the reader to imagine themselves or someone else in that situation than just, yeah, like just getting some theological explanation of something. Yeah, I think that's great advice. We haven't touched on anything about nature or the physical creation. I like to talk
Yeah.
about that on this podcast too because we're creating things like but then there's God's larger creation of the world. And yeah, do you find inspiration from anything in nature or
Yeah.
anything that
Uh,
finds its
de-
way into your writing?
yeah, yeah, definitely. So the thing with nature, what I really like about the beauty of nature is even if I don't do anything with them, I mean, even if I don't, let's say the sunset, okay? Even if
Uh-huh.
even if I don't appreciate the beauty of sunsets, okay, they're just there still. They're beautiful. You see what I
Yeah.
mean? And they're not imposing. They're not imposing. It's like I don't think a sunset, gives you a vibe to look at it. It's just there.
Mhm.
So how's that connected to my writing? I want my writing to be like that. I want it to be, low key beautiful. I just want it to be beautiful. People can look at it. People can choose not to look at it. The book can earn money. The book can not earn money, but it's objectively beautiful.
Mhm.
So I want to pattern my works after that characteristic of nature. And by nature, I'm not only talking about mountains or the beach or flowers or trees. I'm also talking about human beings themselves. Like
Yeah.
I've often observed this with my children. So sometimes I take care of my children. You know how children when they're very little. So one is 3, the other one is 1. Their activity, it's mostly gratuitous. Like I don't think they do things that they do, to train themselves so they'll be better kids. Sometimes they just do it just because they do it.
Mhm.
You see what I mean? So I think again, if I'm gonna write something, I want it to be, you know, just beautiful. It's a story because it is a story, not because I want to preach, not because I want to explore this theme or not. It's
Mhm.
that kind of a, yeah. Not sure if I'm expressing myself properly, but yeah, that's what
No,
I
it
that's
seems to me
why.
like you're saying you want your stories to stand on their own as something authentic, right? Or something true,
Mm,
like
yeah.
like you said, regardless of whether or not others realize it, like it just is. And I think, yeah, because children have that way about them where they're not like psychoanalyzing themselves or, they're just being kids, they're just being who they are. And I think that's like God, because God is God, whether or not we recognize it or whether we care or whether we like it. So, yeah, you want to be that way in your writing. So that makes sense to me. I know I've heard people say like writing true, good, and beautiful books because I think those are like the transcendentals of God. And it's like that's a universal call and a universal reality that we can work on in our stories. Well, good. Well, those of you who are listening, if you want to stay connected with Robin and his books and also his publishing company, check out the show notes below with links to his professional email and website. Thank you so much, Robin, for being on today. It was definitely
Thanks
interesting
for
to hear
inviting
your
me.
experiences and your work in writing. And definitely, I'll be keeping you in my prayers for your publishing company because I always
Thank you.
love supporting publishing companies. And I know myself with Trinity Tree Books is my company, but it's right now it's only my books. But yeah, I just think it's great to get more publishing companies out there and more stories into the world. So great. Let's end with a closing prayer that's for Christian creatives. In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Salt me with newness and dreams. Fire my soul with your inventive flame. Let me be committed to the world by it and find in it the deepest joy. Universal creativity flow through me. Faith to see things not yet seen. Hope to overflow broken cisterns. And love to free me forever. Flow, O river, from the holy temple through my mind to my hand. Infuse my work with spirit to feed hungry souls. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.